Respond to those work emails and you don't mess around with Jim. I do it out.
What's up, gang?
Not much. It's been a minute. It's homecoming week, state fairs. I think have happened around the area, and now we're back. It's like soon going to be that nice fall summer of September,
where you get that like crisp air, and God, I'm stuck in Florida where it's still going to be like 78 degrees. God, I miss the Northeast. Yeah. But guys, welcome back to the Turntable, episode number 8. We have a very interesting collection of albums today, I think. Very diverse.
Yeah, in a way. I think 4 of them kind of are all on the different spectrum of rock, and then we have an incredible comedy album that just kind of like is all over the place, but in the best ways. I'm really excited to talk about all these albums because they all have their little quirks.
Well, let's bring in some of our guests today. First of all, we're going to bring in our first recurring guest of this episode, our only recurring guest, actually, of this episode. One Dylan Vanthine. Dylan, how you doing today, and what did you bring for us?
I'm doing very good. Yeah, it should be a good one. I brought Radiohead's In Rainbows. I'm a big Radiohead fan, and this is actually my favorite album from them. So I'm excited to talk with y'all about it.
All right. And we also have Jim Green. Jim, how you doing? What you bring for us?
I brought one of my favorite albums from when I was a teenager because I saw the movie Dee Dee, which took place in 2008, I believe, which I was 17 years old. So like I was feeling that like kind of like, oh, okay. So what was like one of my favorite albums when I was 17 years old? So I brought Straight Outta Lynnwood from Weird Al Yankovic.
Nice.
Which, in my opinion, is obviously his best album.
Ooh. We can discuss. We were also supposed to have Mike motherfucking Hanley here today. Yeah! But unfortunately, some circumstances came up and he was no longer able to join us. But we will still be talking about his album. His album being Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, the soundtrack. Our first soundtrack on the show. Brooklyn, what did you bring for the table?
I picked my favorite one album wonder band. I guess you would. They've only put out one album and they haven't done. They've popped up on a couple of shows but haven't released anything. And that is the supergroup, Them Crooked Vultures.
And I brought the Sturgill Simpson album Sound and Fury, which we will discuss in a little bit. But we're going to be starting with Mike motherfucking Hanley's album. That being Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure soundtrack. So this is an album for me that I did not know if it was going to work or not. And this album fucking rocks. Like you totally, like even if you haven't ever seen the movie Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, you totally get the vibes. It is 80s cheese rock in like hair rock in like the best possible way. I had only ever heard of maybe 2 bands on this album. I'd only ever heard of Big Pig and Extreme. Extreme probably being the most popular one.
More Than Words.
Yeah, exactly. The More Than Words guys. So it's just kind of that dumb, like rock machismo, but there's a lot of energy in it, and it's infectious, especially if you're listening to this in your car. I think that this album just kind of rocks. It's hard to describe, but it's just some big dumb fun, and that's all it's trying to be.
Yeah, so I have not seen Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, but I know. I almost watched the movie for the show, but I couldn't find the time. but yeah, from the arrangement, you understand like the pacing of it, and I really appreciate just the curation of the songs. I think they fit really well for what they're meant to be. Like Not So Far Away is absolutely the like we're playing this during like a music montage. So and like I could be very wrong, but it sounds like they're like we're gonna travel a destination, and then you get to like walk away and in time, and that's kind of like the like, oh, like we're friends but we're not friends, and we're in that not friends transitioning into then we're back to being friends. My big gripe with this is that a couple of the bands in particular, actually Extreme and I think it's Shark Island.
Shark Island, what a great name for a band. Just side note, amazing name for a band.
Yes. Greatest name ever, maybe.
Play With Me sounds like discount Van Halen. Like they're just ripping off Eddie Van Halen and that sound in particular. And then I believe it's Father Time. It might also be I Can't Break Away, but I think it's Shark Island. They're doing their best Led Zeppelin impression, or not Led Zeppelin. Def Leppard. It's that very like arena rock, drum heavy. Yeah, and it's just like you can tell that there are times I think where they were affected by the budget, what songs they're able to get. But I agree with you, Andrew, and that this is for the most part like 80s cheese. I really liked actually Dancing with the Gypsy. That was a very fun one. And then this is actually I was going to mention at the start, but pretty much every album that we're talking about today has an incredible closer, and Two Heads Are Better Than One is a great one just to like even end off a movie, the perfect kind of like closing credits sort of song. So I do appreciate that.
Have you just complete a side note for not this album, but have you seen the second? I'm assuming you haven't seen the second movie, Brooklyn, Bogus Journey, which ends with like God Gave Rock and Roll to You by Kiss. Like that's like
man.
Yeah,
I'm not even like, a big Kiss fan, but that was awesome.
Yeah, like so that's kind of like a big note of like the difference between this album and then the second, because if you look at Bogus Journey, which I haven't like in a long time, but like there's probably a lot more like Kiss in there and then like bigger names, whereas this one's like Shark Island.
Yeah.
Let's see, hold on. We have Kiss, Faith No More, Megadeth, Primus. Oh. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this movie happened. It made money, and they were like, "All right, now we can get the brand name."
Should have picked that. Why did he pick that one instead?
Because Mike Hanley has to pick the one that features more Shark Island. Obviously.
Oh right, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have to look up Shark Island. Like I have to get a poster or something after that. Hearing that name. I never thought I would love a song by Shark Island, and then these came on, and I was like, "Let's fucking go." Dylan, any thoughts?
Yeah, it was all right. It's very, like you said, it's very cheesy, very 80s. The thing is, it's kind of hard to talk about as an album because it's a soundtrack, so it's kind of like reviewing a playlist in a sense. But yeah, there's some good stuff on there. Some of it's like so cheesy and like so just like, for me, almost generic like 80s hard rock a bit. Like I was not a fan of Play With Me the way it started off. I thought it got up to a bit of a rough start. But then I think The Boys and Girls Are Doing It was all right. I actually really, really liked I Can't Break Away. I think that was my favorite one overall, just because like I love the build of that song, and I like the big group like chorus vocals. That was cool. Yeah, I mean, I can't say I'm really going to go back all that often, but this is definitely, of all the albums we're going to talk about today, this is the one that I could recommend to my dad because he loves this type of stuff. So
I feel like most dads would love this.
Like this type of like 80s hard rock, that's like my dad's jam. Like he would love this.
I think that the unfortunate thing is that like it would be Saturday mornings and like this stuff would be blaring. And I remember as kids being like, can we change this? It's like, no, it's the only time we're able to listen to 80s, so we're gonna listen to it now. So I have that kind of that spite towards it. But I
is that a Canada thing, Brooklyn, where it's like 80s was only allowed before like 11 a.m.
I wish. No, it was just there wasn't a lot. It wasn't like the we play everything kind of radio station. Like we only had one, and it was just top 40. So they left Saturday mornings as like the all right, like here's the stuff. Here's stuff for the boomers, I guess. But yeah, like you definitely get a sense of the tone, I think, with just like the boys and the girls are doing it. Just like kind of the tongue-in-cheek nature of it, and like just that synth as well.
Jim, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm the kind of person that my dad loved this kind of shit, like Def Leppard and like AC. So that's what he listened to a lot. So I was like, I really like this. Like, even Play With Me, I'm like, no, I don't really care that it's just a ripoff of like better stuff. Like, I liked it. I just kind of didn't like I Can't Break Away as much from Big Pig, but then like I think my favorite song, which looking at like Spotify, it's like the third most played song on here. Like Two Heads Are Better Than One. So if I had to pick like out of the ones that's kind of like lower played, Dangerous by our now beloved Shark Island is like I really liked that one as well. Which both of those, it looks like that with along with like Dancing with the Gypsy is like the lowest played on here. So it's good to have like that, like the deep cut one, which Dancing with the Gypsy is also really fun.
Yeah.
Just so the viewers at home know, we will be doing a spin-off where we just go over every single Shark Island album.
It's only Shark Island.
Shark Island week.
Shark Island week? Oh my god, amazing. We gotta do this. All right, any last thoughts before we move on to the next album?
No, I think I overall I really liked it, because it is just like it is just 80s cheese, and like we said, like, you know, it wasn't bought in, so they didn't have like Megadeth and Faith No More in on the album, which kind of like boosts its charm a little bit.
All right, well then, Jim, we're gonna go to you since you're starting off. Give us your score, your favorite song, and your least favorite song. Which you already kind of gave us your favorite.
Yeah, so least favorite, I'll go I Can't Break Away, and then I mean Two Heads Are Better Than One, or Dangerous if we want to go like the more deep cut one, and then I'd give this like I'd give it like a 7.
Okay. I will go next. Actually, no. Let's go in reverse order. Let's go to Dylan.
Yeah. Overall, I thought this was all right. I think this is definitely. Again, I can see myself putting this around when I'm around my dad for sure, because like we don't agree on a lot of music, but I think this is stuff I could play around him. Least favorite track, probably Play With Me, and my favorite track was actually I Can't Break Away. So. There you go.
Okay. Brooklyn.
Score.
This
score.
I'm gonna go 6.183. There we go.
Okay.
So my score, I think the Bill and Ted would love the score as well. A 6.9. I think
God damn it, you stole my fucking joke.
My favorite song, I'm actually gonna go with In Time. I love the build, and it's like everything that I enjoy about the 80s, especially like the big vocals coming into the chorus. My least favorite, I think I'll stick with it. I think Play With Me. If Extreme tried to do like anything else, even if more than words, and I think it's part of the problem, is because I know Extreme so well from More Than Words. It's like I know you guys are good, yeah.
Well, that and joining Van Halen after Sammy Hagar left.
True, yeah.
All right, so Brooklyn stole my goddamn joke. I was gonna give this a 6.9, dude. Favorite, what? Least favorite first, the Tora song, the dancing one. And then my favorite one. Fuck you all for not picking Shark fucking Island, because like considering how.
Hey, I said Dangerous. Dangerous is one of the Shark Islands.
You did. Yeah. I'm sorry. My apologies to you, Jim. You're the only one who got the memo.
The real one, yeah.
Yeah, you're the real one, Jim. I'm gonna go with Father Time though. I actually really dug Father Time. Just like something that they were doing with the production in that one just really hit me. I thought it was pretty great. Mike Hanley did send me his score for this, and if you know Mike Hanley, you know that he doesn't score things the way that most people score things. Especially if you ever look at his letterbox.
Can we guess?
Yeah, go ahead, guess.
I'm gonna say he gave it a 9. That's a great fucking album.
It's a great fucking album.
This has to be a 10.
It's one of those two. He just said great fucking album. Mike Hanley doesn't follow your rules.
No.
So, all right, we're gonna move on now to the next album, which is going to be the one that I brought in, Sound and Fury by Sturgill Simpson. So I brought this album in mostly because of two reasons. One, I've wanted to talk about Sturgill Simpson for a while on this show. He's one of my favorite artists working today. I think that he's just incredibly unique to the alternative country sphere. Like every single album, it's a very different thing. I was between this and Meta Modern Sounds in Country Music, which is more like 60s psychedelia rock country. Whereas this one is more like hardcore Southern rock, like almost in the vein of another album that we'll be talking about later, which is the main reason why I brought this one to the table, because of the panel that we had for this one. I think that this is Sturgill Simpson's most underappreciated album, because most people will talk about Meta Modern Sounds in Country Music. They'll talk about High Top Mountain. They'll talk about the last one. They'll talk about A Sailor's Guide to Earth, which was Grammy nominated. This is the one that kind of fell by the wayside, and I kind of get it, but I also don't, because this album fucking rocks. I love the motif of this album, like the whole idea. It's just like one giant, like, badass, like, road trip, and this entire album is just basically played as if it was being played over your car radio. And I love the way that it starts, just with this really cool instrumentation with Ronan that bleeds into Remember to Breathe with that awesome fucking bass line. Holy shit, that bass line in that song is fucking awesome. And then you go into like this crazy energy with like Sing Along and Good Look. Then you get the Best Clockmaker on Mars, which that guitar just punches you in the face. I do have one problem with this album though. And that's the production on Sturgill's voice. Like the reverb just gets a little too much sometimes. Like he's already hard enough to understand with his thick Kentucky accent, but that just made it even harder. But I want to hear what everyone else has to say on this album.
Let's go next.
It's an open floor, baby.
All right.
Yeah, I mean,
okay, yeah, Jimmy, go first.
Yeah, I mean, because I had like of everything, well, other than in the Bill and Ted, which is like the compilation and our now beloved Shark Island, like out of the like single the single artists on I hadn't heard of Sturgill Simpson, so like this one I was like, okay, and then let me see. It does not. Oh no, it does here. It's 41 minutes. So I was like, so when I was looking over the albums here, like, and Brooklyn gave us like an hour and like 4 minutes and like 20 tracks, I was like, okay. And then I was like, okay, Sturgill Simpson, Sound of Fury, 41 minutes. So like I listened to this on like a drive to work one day, and then like I was like, okay, this is something different. And I really like this, like outside of like one or two songs, and like it does have kind of that like different kind of like sound to it, which I did like. But other than that, like I didn't even, I wouldn't have even, if you were like, oh, this is like kind of a kind of different kind of country, I wouldn't have even thought about that until you told me, which is kind of good, because Yeah, like looking at his picture that's on Spotify of him just like in a cowboy
Yes.
hat. Like I'm
Oh,
like
yeah.
I would not have guessed that's who this is. So I mean, this one I would say is my most like pleasantly surprised of the albums.
Let's fucking go.
Yeah.
Okay. Fuck. Okay. I'll yeah. So Andrew, you've showed me Sturgill Simpson before. I think his cover of The Promise is one of the prettiest covers out there. Go check it out.
Go check
if you
that
haven't
out.
checked it out. I like the tone in general. I thought the Alex Jones sample at the start was I was trying to figure out what like how that made sense. But after a while, I just stopped thinking about it. I was like, okay, like this is kind of an interesting thing to get there. The bookends of this are incredible. Ronan is really good, kind of setting up the groove. Fastest Horse in Town is the perfect sort of like highway. Like there's moments it has kind of like this like doom metal or like groove metal. Like it's heavier for country. My big gripe though, and like the first time I heard this album, I was going to go much harder than I am now. But Sing Along and A Good Look takes this like unnecessarily hard turn into disco, and I can't understand it because by the time you get back to Make Art Not Friends, it's like okay, because going into this, I actually thought that Make Art Not Friends was going to be like one of your favorites on the track because it has that like new wave-ish sort of sound. Especially with like the bass line and the synth and whatnot. But that second half is fucking incredible. From actually, yeah, I would say from Make Art Not Friends, right all the way down through. It just has a good little mix of everything. Even Remember to Breathe is good. But yeah, that. I think that's my question for you. What is the context behind this like this aggressive turn? Like it isn't even like a bend like where they're trying to add in elements. Like it sounds like it's straight up disco.
I can't answer that. I think he just really likes like not Finger 11, but like bands. I feel like he kind of just really appreciates that like hard rock, like what's it called, like dance punk, sort of like LCD Sound System and stuff like that. I think he's just a really big music nerd. He's done cover of like Rihanna songs, so like I think it's just the fact that he really likes that sound and wanted to do it.
Yeah. Hi. I thought so. He's been on my radar for a while, Sturgill Simpson. But I've heard him like praised before in like different music circles, and I knew his song that he did for The Dead Don't Die. I'm a huge fan of Jim Jarmusch, so I knew him because of that. And I liked that I had heard this the first time diving into like a full project by him, and I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
I tell you what, I had like this in like. It was like the perfect environment for me to listen to this because I was playing Doom Eternal with this in the background and I felt like a fucking badass. It was so good. It fit so well. Like the second it came on with Ronan, and that's honestly one of my favorite songs, and it's just even like a instrumental track. Like there's not even any vocals on it, but I thought it was like it comes in like with such a great energy right out the gate. Goes right into Remember to Breathe, which is another great song that I loved quite a bit. Yeah, just overall the way he like blends all the different types of like country and like southern, like almost it feels very bluesy like at parts I feel like as well. Yeah, it's like I just thought this was like a really really fun listen, and I feel even though I liked Sing Along, I'd say it's maybe on the weaker end for me just because I feel like it sticks out a bit in the track list, and like I don't know if it entirely worked in the context of the album, but. Hey, I know this is sort of like a concept thing, and he has like a whole like short film like attached to it as well on Netflix. So I don't know if maybe that explains it more in that context. I want to check it out after listening to this, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that short film is wild. So it kind of like it starts off with like one like through line, and then at one point it just starts to become like music videos, like animated music videos for everything, and it kind of ditches the story after a while. Right. It's still really cool though. I will say that there is this song kind of like, I mean, this album just in general kind of like punches you in the face, and then like when it does slow down, it is that one of those like spacious kind of sounds like that he does in metamodern sounds in country music. Actually, Dylan, the one that I'd recommend for you the most would probably be Sailor's Guide to Earth, because that's more like that Stax Records soul kind
Okay.
of thing. But yeah, this album is so badass, and more people need to listen to Sturgill Simpson. Any last thoughts before we move on to scores and stuff like that?
One last thing I'll say: Mercury in Retrograde, I think, is the perfect kind of like happy medium for what the album was trying to establish in the first half. Like that's the level of like that newer sound that I think would be more or not more successful, but like more integrated into the album, and it doesn't feel as much of a dip. So. Yeah,
all right, so we're gonna start with Mike's rating of this album. Jim, you can help me interpret what like the point value actually would be, because
Did he say it's a pretty good fucking album?
he said it's a good fucking album.
That's what I was
Oh,
gonna guess.
That's got like a 7, 6.5.
No,
That'd be like an 8, I think.
Yeah, I would say no. I think an 8 would be a pretty good fucking album. So this would
Okay.
probably be like a 7.
Okay, I'll take that though. Considering Mike, I will take a 7. So I give this album I'm gonna give this album an 8.75. I really like the energy that this album has, and the songs are really great, but that production on his voice, it just really does hurt it for me. Because it starts to kind of just like, get sludgy and fall into the chaoticness of it. My favorite song on the album is Best Clockmaker on Mars. Like, that song just rips. And that guitar line, when it hits you, it reverberates in your bones. I have that on my workout playlist, and it just hits every single time. My least favorite song would probably be... I'd probably go with All Said and Done. It's just the one I think I go back to the least often. Not that it's like bad. It's just not as memorable as the other ones to me, personally. Let's go to Brooklyn.
Okay, I'm gonna give this a 7.5.
Okay.
I think that's pretty fair. I was alluding to it earlier, but my favorite is going to be The Fastest Horse in Town. I remember specifically that first time listen, and just like my eyes popped pretty well, and I was like, oh man, like what an incredible way to kind of go out. And then my least favorite would be Sing Along, just because it's such a weird transition, especially coming off of Remember to Breathe.
Okay, fair enough. Let's go to Jim next.
I just like the left turn of Sing Along. I actually wrote that, so like I actually like Sing Along, but that is and this is going to be a common theme because I also did it with the another album to come. Just off the top of my head, not even seeing the numbers, but Sing Along is like the most played song on this one. So I would say like outside of that, I really liked Ronin. I like the beginning, like of that kind of, it has a different, like, because I was listening to it and I was like, because like, it is kind of cheating, but like Ronin into Remember to Breathe, where, because they did that thing that like, some artists love to do, like, Beatles had done it, like, and then I don't know why these are my two thoughts on this is like the Beatles and Lady Gaga, and also the Hamilton album does it a lot, where it's just like the end of it plays like right into the next song. Like it's almost like it's just one track. So I did like the beginning of the album. And then my least favorite here is I didn't like the sound of it, and also what's with the name. Like, come on now. Mercury in Retrograde, what are we doing here? Give me a better name. I just was like, I didn't like the sound of it as much, so that would be my least favorite. I'm not going to say it's like bad, but it was my least favorite.
And score.
Oh yeah, Brooklyn did the score stealing thing again, 7.5.
Damn it, Brooklyn.
That's why I was animated.
Okay, Dylan.
All right, so I'll start off with a score so I don't forget this time. I'll go 8.3 repeating. So I guess 8 1/3.
Okay.
I thought this was a really fun listen. I'd say my favorite track was probably Remember to Breathe. I could see myself definitely throwing that on when I'm on like a road trip or something that's like good driving music. And actually, I think my least favorite track was also Mercury in Retrograde. I was just not a big fan overall of the sound of that one. Like even sing along, I think like I had my issue with how it was like I guess sequenced in the album and how it kind of came out of left field and kind of sticks out. But I still think on its own, like I think that's a pretty solid song. But Mercury in Retrograde is the one that I can see myself probably not coming back to all that often.
All right. So with that, we are going to be moving on to Jim's album. Jim, tell us about Straight Outta Lynnwood.
Okay. I clicked on Radiohead, so pause. So Straight Outta Lynnwood, I can bring up here. So this album, it did actually come out in 2006. So I was 15 at the time, and one of the songs obviously on here was "Don't Download This Song." It is big on like the era of like this is when consumer internet was like actually becoming bigger. Like everyone had AOL and that kind of thing, but like this is kind of I feel like when like people like my parents who just didn't really like the internet that much, they even got like a modem and it was like, oh, we have LimeWire now and stuff. So and it was, well, I mean, it was just like that was even towards the end after Napster and everything, to where it was like, oh, but you could still just download music and the internet's this like, relatively speaking, like 2006, 2007, like it still was a little Wild Westish, like with YouTube, and like it would be like, oh, let me just watch this movie on YouTube in like 25 9-minute parts, and like so, and then I remember watching these music videos on YouTube and everything. So that's just where it holds like a special place in my heart. And I had this, obviously I downloaded it. Sorry, not sorry.
You fell into their trap.
But I just remember having this on my little like MP3 player that I would just like listen to it on repeat. And like one reference that nobody ever gets like from this album is the I'll sue Ben Affleck, and it's like, do I even need a reason? Like I've always just like when Ben Affleck comes up, I'll just be like, I'll sue Ben Affleck. Oh, do I even need a reason? Like, so yeah, this is obviously my favorite. I think Andy Barnard here had a look on his face and I was like, this is the best Weird Al album. To me, it is the best because there's like, the polkas hitting on this one, and then like it just has, one of his biggest of like Riding, in my opinion, and then it's got Canadian Idiot, and then Confession, and then it's like Trapped in the Drive-Thru, and it's like so it just has bangers on bangers on bangers, and then some bad songs. So the bad song on this one might be a little easier than the other albums, but close but no cigar.
What?
No, I'm not saying that's the bad song. I just happened to look at it.
That's what I thought. Okay.
I was gonna say.
Yeah. So like we're gonna open the floor up. So whoever wants to start, just go.
I'll go. I know this album better than I do the album that I submitted. This was my introduction into Weird Al. Like Dylan, I don't know if you remember it, but do you remember Punch Much? It was like their music video call-in show. And they launched this right around the time White and Nerdy came out as a music video, and this got played like I think at least every hour. It was just consistently the most voted on, and that's when I started to take my deep dive. This would have been like junior high. I think I would have been 13 whenever it came out. And whenever Jim said it was the best album, I kind of raised my eyebrows because I'm a big fan of Apocalypse. That has some great songs on it too.
Really?
Apocalypse is a good one. But I agree with Jim in that this is the most stacked. Like the B-sides on this are great. The earworm that always gets in my head is Virus Alert, especially the line like legally change your name to Reggie. And then like I like how expressive he is in regardless of the genre. Like the one that went up for me on re-listen was Confessions Part 3. I just think he has a lot of fun time with like, especially I'm sorry, Debbie, I mean Bridget. That's a great line. Close but no cigar is great, especially how they use, I forget what the name of the instrument is called, but that like buzzing thing. They kind of turn that into like a side joke throughout the song. Like if they have that ended or whatever. We've talked about Trapped in a Drive-Thru. That's the only Weird Al song that made it on my top 500 list. It is an incredible song. Don't download the song. Jim and I, we've bonded over it, but it's the parody of like that, like We Are the World sort of deal. I always love the line, "Don't take away money from artists just like me. How else can I afford another solid gold Humvee?" But yeah, and then like, yeah, Virus Alert. I love the melody, I guess, of the chorus. Virus Alert, and then kind of how it walks down. Weasel Stomping Day was used in Robot Chicken. And it has a more added context if you know that Weird Al's actually a vegetarian. So I was like, oh, and it's very like, reminds you of like something that like Conan O'Brien might write, like that, like chaotically sort of good sort of deal. My hot take though for this album, and I'll pass it on to everyone else. My niche, I guess, of Weird Al is the polka medleys. This is the weakest polka medley of anything that he has put out. Just everything else is so stacked, because this one opens with like Let's Get It Started and it ends with Gold Digger, and it doesn't like, it just sounds kind of flat compared to like everything else that he's put out in that nature. But I'm curious as to what everyone else thinks, especially on the polka medley.
Disagree. This is one of my favorite polka medleys. Fuck you, Brooklyn.
Well, especially because he's coming off because I think the two before that would have been Polka Power, which is incredible, and I think I'd either before that or the one after is Angry White Boy Polka, which opens with Last Resort, which is great.
Yeah, so confession time. This is actually the first full album I've listened to from Weird Al. So, and I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was a lot of fun. I had only previously heard like his most popular like hit songs, never a full project. And yeah, this was pretty consistently funny. I'll say there are some songs that I have very fond memories of. Like I'll say, I think I've heard Canadian Idiot, because I'm from Canada, obviously. I think I've heard that played here just about as much times as I've heard American Idiot play.
Oh my
like it's
God.
constantly played. It was constantly played at like hockey games that I played at. And I know they'd have it playing whenever we'd get on the ice. So I have very fond memories of that song. We love that song here.
I can't
love that one. Yeah, we really love that song. But yeah, Confessions was hilarious. I mean, not so much a big fan of Do I Creep You Out? I think that was kind of just a bit lazy in terms of the joke of that song. I like 30 seconds in, I was like, all right, I get it. Weasel Stomping Day, I think he knew to keep that at a minute and 30, because I thought it just came and went, and I thought it was really funny. But I think if it would have went on just longer, I would have been like, got very tired of that as well. Yeah, pretty funny overall. I will say I'm not a big, this might be my hot take, I'm not a big fan of the polka song, Polka-Rama. I just thought that was like, I don't know, I didn't find it, just the concept, I guess, very interesting, because this is the first like of his polka songs that I've heard, and it's just him like saying just the straight up lyrics from the songs over a polka instrumental, and I don't know, it didn't really work for me, I guess. I don't know, wasn't a big fan of that, so maybe I wouldn't be a fan of his other polka songs. But yeah, overall this was a fun listen. I enjoyed it.
This is my favorite of all his polka songs.
Wow.
Yeah, this is absolutely
Suck
my
it, Brooklyn.
So yeah, this album. Have you ever had an instance where you've been like, oh, I've never listened to this album as a whole, and then as you go through the album, you're like, oh yeah, I've heard this song. Oh, I have heard this song. Oh, I have heard this song. Oh shit, I've actually heard all of the songs on this, just not on the actual album or in order. Yeah, that was this album for me. I love Weird Al. I discovered him because for some reason my parents had the Food album, and I played that thing on constant repeat. And It's between this, Running with Scissors, and Bad Hair Day for which one is his best album in my opinion. I love Do I Creep You Out, but that's because like I watched American Idol when I was younger, and like Taylor Hicks, like even though he wasn't the guy I wanted to win, I liked him.
Soul Patrol, right?
Yeah, Soul Patrol, baby. That was the year that Chris Daughtry lost, which is wild.
Wasn't
Yeah,
who got
because Chris
second? Wasn't
Daughtry,
like Catherine
no.
McPhee like second or something?
Yeah, Catherine McPhee came in second, and then Chris Daughtry came in like fourth. It was like a stacked year for Idol for some reason. I really like A Canadian Idiot more than I remember liking that one. Like at first time I heard it, I was like, I don't know about this one, and yeah, that one grew on me.
Do you have a hockey anecdote for it too, or is that just the Canadians?
I guess just us.
It scored. Let's go with that.
Nice.
Confessions Part 3. One of his like best like hidden gems, in my opinion. The line that you brought up, Brooklyn, is absolutely right. The Bridget one, like that kills me every time because it's just the perfect beat. Close but No Cigar, I like better than any song that is actually that ever actually made. Well, yeah. I'm not a big Cake fan, but like apparently like that's who he's parodying in this song.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's like it's a couple of gear changes away from being short skirt, long jacket.
Yeah. And then Don't Download This Song is just like the perfect way to end this album because it is like this big giant anthemic swell to close out this stupid ass song. This stupid
You'll
ass
wind up in jail like Tommy John. Remember Tommy?
They really go for Lars Ulrich in this song. So great.
You can just ask him.
I think the thing that also just really helps this album a lot is that it's actually produced really well. Like, there are some songs that do kind of sound like a little cheap, but then you get to songs like Close But No Cigar and Don't Download This Song, and honestly, oddly enough, even Weasel Stomping Day, because that captures like that stupid Rankin Bass cartoon animation style really well.
Illustration that makes it okay.
Australia is fucking rocks for some reason. There are two songs on this album that don't necessarily work for me. Those being Pancreas and for me Virus Alert. I don't like Virus Alert that much.
There's one line in Virus Alert that is definitely not aged well.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one. I didn't even think about that one. But yeah, overall, it's a really fun album. One of his best, really well produced, musically just really interesting. Any last thoughts on this one before we wrap this one up?
We somehow escaped this without like deep diving into White and Nerdy, which is the song that got everybody. I'd say got our generation into Weird Al.
I think it was like a top 10, maybe even a top 5 hit in the US.
Well, when you look at it on Spotify, it almost has as many plays as the rest of the album.
Yeah.
Like it's at 37 million, and then the next highest is Canadian Idiot at 9, and then none of the other ones are above 5. So
like I want to know, hold on, how much is I gotta know how many listens the actual song has, because that's crazy. Let me see.
That's Jim. He has the numbers in front of him.
I have the numbers right here.
yeah, I'm just looking at the Spotify plays.
Yeah.
268,000. Sorry, 268 million.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
That's not very much.
Is that on YouTube?
YouTube?
No, that's on Spotify.
Oh.
268 million compared to how much did you say? that White and Nerdy was?
White and Nerdy has 37 million.
Crazy.
Oh, okay. You were looking at his total plays.
Yeah,
Okay.
total plays.
Yeah, so I mean, White and Nerdy is just like, it's just hitting the reference. Like, there's a lot of, if you were a teenager in like, if you were in that like, consumer internet getting bigger, and like basically like the same kind of people that like would get shoes references. Like,
oh my God.
so like, but it's like, oh, like he hits just like, oh, Holy Grail, my coding on MySpace, like Minesweeper, like
Kirk and Picard.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
nerdy
just
in
like
the
stuff that
extreme
was
whiter
just
and sour.
yeah. There was just like tons of like great references of like being on the internet and weird at that time.
And the thing is, he's actually a good rapper.
Yeah.
Not like a great, like one of the all-time greats, but like he's decent. He's like really good.
Well, we knew that from Amish Paradise, obviously.
Well, that's true. Yeah. All right. So, Jim, this is your album.
Mm-hmm.
You start us off. Give us your scores. Oh my God! There's a ghost.
I can.
Oh yeah,
go.
Brooklyn, you go first.
Yeah. So this is almost a perfect album. This is a 9.7 for me. I'll give a top 3. I guess it's really hard to give a favorite. Number 3 would be "Don't Download This Song." Number 2 would be "Trapped in the Drive-Thru." It is his best song. It's the best song ever put out. But are we playing Horseshoes, Honey? No, I don't think we are. You're close, but no cigar. That is my favorite song. This is it's the song that I played the most. Like I'd go to this album and specifically pick that one just because I love the beat that it mimics from Cake. My least favorite, Andrew was talking about it earlier, I would actually say is Pancreas. This one and Do I Creep You Out and Confessions kind of leans into the cringe kind of humor. I understand what Pancreas is trying to do. It's trying to be a parody of a Beach Boys song. But Pancreas kind of becomes like Bull in How I Met Your Mother. You hear it too many times, and then the word just becomes weird. So yeah, it was the one that I just kind of avoided on the album, I guess.
I'm going to go next. This album is getting a solid 8 from me. I would probably say, I'm going to go with Pancreas as well as my least favorite song. I like what it was doing. I got it and understood like right away. It just didn't really care for that one. My favorite song is Trapped in the Drive-Thru. Like, that's just a super genius comedy song. It's also just like lyrically dense and interesting, and it keeps you like attention. And the ending of that, perfect, because I have had that moment and it is so frustrating.
That they forget the onions.
Yes.
You bite into
the saddest line.
Or did you get to the drive-thru and you realized you didn't have your wallet?
Oh my God! Searching like through in between seat cushions for change. Yeah, all of that.
But also, what fast food place, like picking nits? What fast food place is only taking cash? What's going on there? Even in 2006, what's going on there?
Mike motherfucking Hanley said that this is a pretty good fucking album.
Yeah,
so
that's like that's like a 8.5.
Yeah. Dylan, let's go to you next. So we'll end on Jim for this one.
I was gonna also give it an 8. I'll one up you by going 8.01. Just like Price is Right you a bit there. Anyways, I'd say I know I spent most of my time talking about Canadian Idiot, but also the Rage Against the Machine fan of me just really loves I'll Sue Ya. So I think just taking the idea of taking a Rage Against the Machine song, Bomb Track, and then making into a song about that is just hilarious to me. So that's probably my favorite song on the album. Least favorite, Do I Creep You Out? It's just from like 30 seconds in, I'm like, yeah, this isn't working for me, and I don't think it got much better from there. But yeah.
All right, Jim.
It's a great fucking album. This is a 10 for me. obviously this is obviously because I was the one that nominated it, so it's gonna be. I'm not you guys. I'm not like I'll nominate like a 6.5 for me. Like, just see what you guys are gonna say.
I've only done that one time, Jim.
Pancreas is like, yeah, that's the obvious one for me that I'm just like, eh. And then obviously White and Dirty is gonna be my favorite, but as we said, like that's by far the biggest one, so I always have to, have the backup. And I guess this is probably oh no, never mind. Let's do our Creepy Out as the one that's the least played on here. But Trapped in the Drive-Thru is my like second favorite, just because it is like having listened to that song so many times, like I can almost like with the song, just like I know the like almost the whole like 10 minutes like of I'm zoned out on the sofa and my wife comes in the room and sees me. Is this behind the music? With the it's just so like it's so
I don't know what it's
so
getting
like
made. What you wanna do for dinner?
yeah, it's just like like that song is so ridiculous, and you're listening to it, it's like, what the fuck is this? But it's so amazing. Like it's about the most like little benign shit, but it's still so amazing.
All right. So with that, we are going to be moving on to Dylan's album. Why can't I move you? There we go. All right, Dylan. Talk about In Rainbows.
Released in 2007, the I actually don't know, seventh album, I believe it says here. Yeah, this is again, like I said, my favorite Radiohead album. I also think it's maybe like their most accessible, like for people who like, because I for the longest time thought like I wasn't a big fan of Radiohead, and I thought like their music was kind of boring and pretentious. And this is the album that kind of got me into them, and I was like, wow, this is actually like
not boring and pretentious.
It's still kind of a little pretentious,
yeah.
I guess you could say. Like it's still arty farty whatever. But it's I just love like overall. I think the production on this album is like so clean. Like the drums like really pop. The bass lines are just so smooth, and it's just like really like easygoing, fun to listen to music. I love 15 Step. That's like one of my favorite album openers of all time. Like the way it comes in with these like really glitchy sounding drums, and then when the guitars come in later, it's like it's so good. Like I love the soundscape that this album creates. Weird Fishes / Arpeggi is maybe my favorite Radiohead song. Period. I love that song, and I mean this is just like a very like short, quick, to the point, like just great album from start to finish. Like I think it's just a consistent listen all the way through, and yeah, it's honestly just one of my favorite albums ever. I didn't know what to pick going into this, so I was just like, what's one of my favorite albums? In Rainbows. Let's go with that.
Yeah, this is also my favorite Radiohead album. I fucking love this album. Body Snatchers, I think, may have been the first song I ever heard off of it, and yeah, just like there's like that weird, like crunching distortion in it.
Yes.
That's just like really cool. And then you suddenly just like break down into Nude, which is like the most
pretty
like floating in a pool kind of sound. Let's see what else here. Oh, yeah, and then it has, like, this fantastic 4-song closing with Reckoner, House of Cards, Jigsaw falling into place, and Videotape. Like, that's probably my favorite series of songs for, like, a closing of an album out of all of the ones that we brought in today. Yeah, it's just one of those ones where, like, especially with Reckoner, the production on that one, it's just so good. It's an album that is very chaotic in some points and then very beautiful in other points, and it just does that balancing act incredibly well. Tom York's voice is not grating throughout the entire album. Like there are some like for the albums like OK Computer and Kid A and Idiotech, like there are points where Tom York's voice can get a little annoying. But he just sounds so great on all of the songs here, especially Videotape. I think maybe one of his best vocal performances. and that piano, it's crazy. That piano line is super hard, apparently. I've never tried it, but he's apparently messed it up multiple times in concert. Yeah, I friggin' love this album. I think it's fantastic. Anyone else?
I'll go next. Yeah, I'll go next.
Cool.
Yeah, Radiohead has been kind of just sitting in the spice cabinet for a few years. I always hear like Nazario and Dylan, and I think did Payson go on a Radiohead deep dive? Yes.
Oh, I don't know, but he probably will.
But yeah, it's always a conversation that's man, I can't contribute because I don't have an informed opinion. I fucking loved this album though. This is the first time listen, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really like the arrangement of it as well because I get the sense from 15 Step to Nude is kind of this is the sound that we're going for that kind of makes us a little different from everything else that we have put out before, and then you go from Weird Fishes Arpeggi all the way through almost until Videotape. Then that's the more tried and true sort of Radiohead sound where they're going a little bit different. Philip Selway in particular, the drummer, needs some recognition on this. His drum work throughout the entire album is spectacular. In particular, Weird Fishes and Arpeggi. I love the energy and drive of it. It actually reminds me a lot of Death Cab for Cutie. That kind of sound. Nude is also really good. I really like the kind of the build as it gets on near the end. That's what I really like about Thom Yorke. Or yeah, Tom.
It's just Tom.
Yeah, it is Tom. Okay, I'm not sure. Yeah, yeah. One of my favorite things that he does in a lot of songs that nice kind of strain to it. Again, an incredible closer. I like that transition from Jigsaw falling into place. It kind of has that. It has the break to allow the piano in Videotape to kind of Videotape kind of seems like a song kind of within its own. It doesn't feel attached to anything else within the album. But again, it's really good. All I Need was probably the one that surprised me. It's just very lo-fi. I feel like I should be driving home from work at 3 a.m. and just kind of pondering about everything that kind of happened that day. Really enjoy that energy. And then Reckoner and House of Cards is probably the most accessible or the lightest, I guess, out of anything on the album. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed what I did listen to, and I'll definitely be digging deeper into the cabinet.
All right, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, I really like this one. This is probably out of the albums that we listened to, because the what's it called? Sound and Fury is such a different thing, whereas Radiohead, I've heard of Radiohead, and then for me, I was I'll just spoil it. I liked Body Snatchers most, and I was oh, this is gonna be because that's one of the first songs of Radiohead that I've heard. Probably I don't know. I'd have to look at their artist page or whatever. But I was oh, this is gonna be one of their biggest songs on here, and it's one of the smallest songs on here, plays wise. The highest one is the Weird Fishes, and then the other one where I was okay, Body Snatchers is gonna be one of their biggest played. So Jigsaw falling into place will be my backup one, and that's the second highest played on here. So I'm just okay, so I kind of got this all backwards, but it's fine. It's fine. I really liked this album, and yeah, I mean, there's a song I'll save my my least favorite song here, but this was the most kind of vibey, for me to just be I was just listening to it, and I'm yeah, this is real chill. I'm just chilling. We're just chilling here. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It's not a great fucking album. Spoiler alert. It's not a great fucking album, but I'll give it a score.
Wow. Because I'll tell you what, Mike Hanley would actually say, well, no, here it is. Mike Hanley actually said, In Rainbows, good fucking album.
I'll take it.
Okay, yeah, fair. Mike Hanley actually did not have a bad thing to say about any of these albums, which is great.
Well, That's a Fucking Album would be about a 5.
Yeah. And then Just Fuck would still be a 3. All All right. Any last thoughts on In Rainbows before we move on to the last one? Okay, Dylan, this is your album. Give us your score, your rating, all that jazz.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite albums ever. So yeah, 10 out of 10. Love it. Favorite song, probably, yeah, well, it's Weird Fish's Arpeggi. That's my favorite. And I don't dislike any of the songs here. I think they're all great. I think just by default, though, I think the one I'd probably go back to the least would probably be Faust Arp overall. But even then, it's still a good song. Like, I can't really complain about it too much. But yeah.
Let's go to Jim next.
So you were like talking about it's like, oh, floating in a pool, nude, and I was like, just not my thing. I don't like to float in a pool. Nah, screw that. But yeah, like I said, like I was like, oh, Jigsaw falling into place is gonna be like my backup one because Body Snatchers is gonna have so many plays. But no, it did not. The Body Snatchers and Jigsaw were like my favorite ones on here. And then the score, let's give it like a 8.15 steps.
Honestly, that's the best thing that you could have said. Brooklyn.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a 9 for now. If I give this a revisit, it will probably go up. I'll start with my least favorite. I'll agree with Dylan. Faust Arp. It's the weirdest, well, or not the weirdest one, but it's like the slowest, more ballady. Like they get the acoustic guitar and then the strings. I'm sure it serves purpose as a kind of a divider between first and second half. But yeah, just weird placement. Maybe if you put it near the end, it might do better. Dylan already talked about Weird Fishes and Arpeggi. I think that would also be a favorite one, but I'll give love to Jigsaw falling into place. Philip Selway in particular. That's one of his best performances. I just love songs where it's like the guitar, the keys, and like the bass are pretty mellow, but then the drum in the back is giving all the energy to the song, and it's doing that very well.
Dylan, remind me, did you give Hounds of Love by Kate Bush a 10 when you were on?
I can't remember.
I feel like you did.
I thought he did.
Yeah, I feel like you did.
Probably.
Yeah, well, we just flipped it because this is a 10 out of 10 for me. I think that this album's perfect. Like, it's 41 minutes or something like that, 42, and it carries that entire time. There is no bad song, and there's everything kind of on an even level. I would also probably say Faust Arp is the one I would go back to the least often. But Reckoner, man. Reckoner is just such a good song. Brooklyn brought up the drums before, but like the drums on that particular one, just like that, the cymbal being just so perfectly placed in the mix, and Tom York's vocals on that are probably the best I think that Tom York has ever sounded, to be honest with you. So yeah, that Reckoner is my favorite song on this album. But with that, we're going to move into our last album. Tell us about them crooked vultures, Brooklyn.
Okay, so let's go back to a moment in history. It was January of 2017, I believe, with Jim Green and Caleb Coho were playing in Jukebox Trivia. It might have been like the second or third match ever. And in that format, my round 2 was whoever was in the lead of round 1 got to pick an artist, I think, or a year. And the artist that I had picked was Foo Fighters. And I did not realize that was Jim Green's, like, one of his favorite bands of all time. So we bonded very quickly over that. So,
I think it was Foo Fighters or Fall Out Boy, for the record.
I think, yeah. And then because I remember Coho not getting a single Foo Fighters song, and like that being very egregious. But yeah, as soon as we talked about Jim being on the show, I was like, all right, we have to talk about Dave Grohl in some capacity. I didn't want to go into anything Foo Fighters because I want to save that for like near the end of the show. So I was like, let's do them Crooked Vultures, which is this incredible supergroup. consisting of Dave Grohl, who's going back on drums for this album, John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin, who is on bass, who's doing an incredible job, and then also Josh Homme, who is the lead singer of Queens of the Stone Age, who had worked with Dave Grohl previously. Dave Grohl actually does drums for, I think, one of their best songs, No One Knows, an incredible drum performance in general. And then also a person who needs to get love on this is, my pronunciation might be off, Alain Johannes. He's a Chilean-American guitarist who has done work for Arctic Monkeys, PJ Harvey, Chris Cornell, as well as Vampire Vultures, so he already kind of has that connection. He's not listed as an official member, but he, like, if you watch any of their performances, he's always there, and I believe he deserves love because he's backing rhythm for a lot of Josh Homme's like weird kind of work. Why I love Josh Homme in particular is because when he's writing solos or when he's performing solos, he's one of the few people that it's like he gets intentionally lost in the solo and then tries to kind of get back in because it sounds off kilter for a while and then it gets back. I also picked this album because one of the songs on it, Dead End Friends, is actually on the soundtrack of one of my favorite video games ever, Skate 3. It's an incredible open world game. But yes, like Jim was alluding to earlier, this is over an hour long. I know that album's over an hour. You usually get a tough grind here. I think we figured out that like 45 minutes to like 55 minutes is kind of the sweet spot. You can go a little bit longer as long as it's telling a really good story. But this is jam rock. You can tell that these are like four guys just having a blast, especially like the first four tracks. No One Loves Me and Neither Do I, Mind Eraser, No Chaser. New Thang was like the big single that came off of this album. I love the groove in that and whatnot. But then you get into like these really kind of fleshed out one. Bandoliers is a really good one. Reptiles, Warsaw or the first breath you take after you give up sounds the most like John Paul Jones-ish. It starts very slow, but it has this really cool build that they kind of allude to with No One Loves Me and Neither Do I. That one in particular has a really good like kind of like breakdown where they kind of slow down a little bit and then get right back into it. Gunman has like a really cool sound on the guitar and whatnot. But yeah, like each member really kind of has a chance to shine. Like Dave has some really cool moments on the backing vocals. John Paul Jones is doing a little bit of piano work, especially on the end. Spinning in Daffodils is the closer of this one and has a really good kind of eeriness to it. I think it kind of plays into everyone's talents very well. But I'm curious as to what everyone else's thoughts are.
Yeah, so I didn't know anything about this album going into it, and I do like Queens of the Stone Age quite a bit. So first track in, I just kind of hit play again, was playing Doom, had this on the background, fit very well also, by the way, pretty fun. Yeah, so first track in, I was like, oh, this is cool. This sounds a lot like, this reminds me a lot of Queens of the Stone Age. And then the second track, Mind Eraser, No Chaser came on, and I was like, wait a minute, that guy, this is literally the lead singer from Queens of the Stone Age. And then I had to Google it to confirm it. So I was like, oh, nice. This should be cool. Like, I didn't realize this was sort of like a side project, I guess, for them. I don't, if that's accurate to say. Yeah, I thought this was pretty cool. A lot of fun, a good fun listen from front to back. I mean, look, I think some of these songs, if I have any criticism, really, I think some of these songs might have drug on a bit for me. Like, this might be a hot take. I don't know. I don't know how everyone feels about the track Elephants, but I think that might have been overall one of my least favorite ones, just for that reason, because I think it drug on just for a little bit too long. Because I like more shorter songs, the ones that just kind of hit and then leave. So some of these songs, the fact that this is like 13 songs in an hour and 6 minutes, like a lot of them kind of drug on a bit. But for the most part, I thought this was just a really fun listen front to back. Like, yeah, very consistent from track to track. Don't really have much else to add. It's just a good listen.
Yeah, it's very telling when the shortest track on the album is 3 minutes 15 seconds, and there are two that are over 7 minutes.
Yeah, I want to say like maybe 1/3 of this album is, I want to say like maybe 5 minutes or longer. And I think that did hurt it a little bit. but there's a reason that I try to get to every album at least 2 times through. Because I'm not gonna lie, first listen, halfway through, I was like, wow, this album's like really it's hitting on all cylinders, and then it hit Elephants, and I started to feel that length, and it started to like really wear down to like maybe a 7 score wise for me, and then I re-listened to it today, and it was a moment of like I just have to let it like wash over me, because let's be honest, the lyrics in this album don't really matter that much.
Wow.
Only Mind Eraser, No Chaser might be the only one that I feel the lyrics as much.
Yeah, and just like having listened to it again, the score definitely went up. There is one song that starts a little bit of a descent for me, but it picks right back up towards the end, which I'll get to in like best and worst. The person I think really stands out on this album, though, is John Paul Jones. The bass lines in this are just fucking nuts. Like when you really pick them up, they are fantastic. I do wish that Dave Grohl sang more on this album, though. Don't get me wrong, I love Josh Homme, but I also really like Dave Grohl's voice, and I was just
If
kind
only
of
there was albums that had him singing. Damn it! If only we had those.
If only there was a band.
Bam, damn.
Or it's just like this Dave Grohl guy. He could be a lead. He could be a great lead singer.
It's like whenever Kanye and Rihanna added Paul McCartney, and they were like, man, this Paul McCartney, he's gonna go places.
Kanye just put on this guy.
Yeah, so that's my thoughts. Jim.
Oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say something else.
No.
I definitely like. You know, obviously this is like kind of my lane. Like I really like this album, but it was like you were saying, Bar. It's like, oh, like you can really start to feel the length of it. Like when you get to like Warsaw, like, and that's a 7-minute song, and then you're like, all right, we're pretty much done with this album, right? And it's like, nope, you got like another 15, 16, 17 minutes here. You got another 7.5 minute. And you got 2 more
Closer.
5 minutes. It's like, yeah, you feel some length here, which that'll stop me from like giving it like an even higher score, because it does like, because this is like the one I couldn't. This is out of like all of the albums. This is the one I couldn't listen to like once all the like one go. I was like my work lunches are 45 minutes, and I was like, okay, let's get going. And I'm like, okay, my lunch is over, and I still have like a third of this album left. So I had to come back to it to finish it up. But yeah, overall, I really like this album, and like, you know, it's like Bar was saying, that Dave Grohl guy, he could have sang some more here. Maybe he's got a good voice. That guy.
You can tell from his like backing vocal performance that this dude's got something.
He's got the goods.
Whoa, Dylan, where'd that cigar come from? All of a sudden?
I feel like I don't know if anyone but me saw this movie, the Bob Marley one, where like there's the scene where they're like, where it's like young Bob Marley and then the Wailers or whatever, and then they're just like the like, you know, Bob Marley was alive in what, the 60s, so it's like the 50s 60s music producer in like wherever, like Jamaica, wherever, and he's just like, nah, this isn't good, I got a cigar. And then they're like, and then Bob Marley's like, but let's do this song where I sing a lot. And it's like, you got something. That's you with Dave Grohl on this album. Like, this kid's got it. Let's record an album. Places.
I like Mike Myers' character in Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
All right. Any last thoughts before we wrap this up with a pretty bow? All right, cool. Brooklyn.
Yeah, so score is I still actually haven't thought of a score for this. Let's go with, I think, an 8.5. I think an 8.5 is fair. You could I understand the argument that it's a lot of the same. I happened to enjoy it. Like I definitely had like the fanboy goggles on of like just getting to hear three of my favorite artists perform together. I'd really recommend when these guys first came out, they did a concert on BBC Radio 1, and it's shortened down to about 25 minutes, so it kind of covers all of the highlights of the album. I'd really recommend checking that out because you get to kind of get to hear them talk about them forming the band. My favorite, I'm gonna do a top three again. My number three would be Mind Eraser, No Chaser. My number two would actually be Scumbag Blues. I love the rhythm in that one. And then New Fang is my number one. That is where all the artists really get to shine. I love the groove that Dave has in the drums. It's John Paul's best bass line throughout the whole record, and it's the best use of Josh Homme as a frontman. I think Spinning in Daffodils might be the only other one that you that'd be the closest argument. My least favorite would be Interlude with Ludes. Yes, Josh Homme is a psychedelic rock person. Actually, people even define him as stoner rock. And it's you can tell that's where they're like, all right, let's slow down a little bit before we get into the epicness that is Warsaw. But yeah. A great album. Really recommend listening to it if you have over an hour of free time.
Mike motherfucking Hanley said, "Them Crooked Vultures, pretty great fucking album."
Oh, so that oh man, that's awesome.
It'd be like a 9 out of 10. Yeah,
that'd be like
man,
a 9.
that's great.
Yeah.
Jim, I know Brooklyn stole most of the stuff that you were going to say.
He just basically like my least favorite was Interlude with Ludes, and then my favorite was Mind Eraser, No Chaser, and I was gonna give it an 8.5, but we're gonna change my score. We'll change my score to an 8.1995.
Ooh, that's great. That's a great reference. I like that.
I'm gonna give this song a 7.9. This album a 7.9.
The song, just the one song.
Just the one song, yeah.
He's gonna go down all. He's going down all
average it all out.
I'm gonna give this album a 7.9. I can't quite give it an 8 because there is that little period where it starts to like really slow down and drag for me. That being starting with my least favorite song, which is also Interlude with Ludes. It's just the one that seems like the most out of place, and just like it brings the album to a screeching halt, in my opinion. My favorite song, New Fang, is definitely up there, but I'm actually gonna go Bandoliers. Like that one, I remember hearing the second time and just being like, "Oh yeah, fuck yeah, this is great." So yeah, Dylan.
Yeah, I feel like this is the album of the ones that we're talking about that I kind of have the least like stuff to say about. It's just good. I liked it. I give it really good. In fact, I'm not scared like Andrew to give it an 8 because he gave it a 7.9, so I'll give it an 8. I'll say my favorite song probably was also, where was it? Mind Eraser, No Chaser. I love that song. And then my least favorite, Elephants, I felt like just kind of really overstayed its welcome after a little bit, so I'd say that one.
God damn, I wasn't scared. I'm saying it wasn't worth it. Fuck you.
You just said, come on, this is 0.1. Just give it.
Yeah,
No, it's my score. Fuck you. All right, guys. So we're going to close this out with everyone giving their favorite album that someone else brought. Mike, I'm assuming it's Them Crooked Vultures, considering the score that he gave it.
Nice.
I would probably say that, I mean, like, I gave it a 10, so In Rainbows is my favorite one that someone else brought. Good job, Dylan. Let's go to you next, actually.
I'd say my favorite, this is tough because I actually really liked basically all the albums here. Maybe with the, I won't be mean. I mean, it's the soundtrack, so it's hard to really compare it to the other ones. But yeah,
But how many of the other albums have Shark Island on?
that's true. That's true.
None of our albums had Shark Island, so I feel like we all got dropped down to a 2.
I'm not just picking him because he picked mine, but I'd say Sound and Fury overall is my favorite.
Was not expecting that when we started the episode. Not gonna lie. Jim, let's go to you next.
Okay, so I would say like my favorite collection of songs. I get this is a weird way to put it, but like my favorite collection of like songs, I would say, just because it's like more my type of music that I like, would be like them Crooked Vultures. But like as an album, like a whole album, I would say the In Rainbow.
All right, Brooklyn, close this out.
I'm gonna have a cheap kind of answer as well. My favorite first time listen was In Rainbows. Of the new albums we listened to, that was a great one. But if we're talking about ones I'm going to go back to, of course it's going to be Straight Outta Lynnwood. It's like I'm probably going to go back to it pretty soon. Actually, there's just some all time songs that I had loved before we had talked about them on the show. So it's I'd say In Rainbows maybe has some catching up to do, but I think we'll get there in the all time discussion.
All right. Well, so next month we don't have all of the albums just yet, but we do have the panel. Our panel for next month is going to be Adelaide Spence.
Oh God.
Melissa Woody.
Oh Jesus.
And from Settle the Score, Andy Merriweather is going to be joining us.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Right?
Yeah.
So, Brooklyn, you were going to say something?
No. Just
okay.
Just how excited I am to have him back on, because knowing how much we talked about Billy Joel the first time, I know it's going to be a great discussion.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to see what he picks. But please tune in next month for that, and for Dylan, for Jim, for Brooklyn, for Mike, motherfucking Hanley. Jim. I'm Andrew Barr. Keep on rocking.